What's up, Taiwan? I'm Yvonne Yang with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's military is getting ready to retire its fleet of F-5 aircraft after decades of service. Our reporter Jaime Ocon went to Hualien ahead of a farewell ceremony on Friday.
Taiwan's Air Force is letting the media get a sneak peek on what it takes to make sure the country can defend its airspace. And that starts with making sure it can rearm and refuel its jets as efficiently as possible. Ground crews are trained to arm these fighters and carry out safety checks in under 30 minutes. But while the teams are fast, the RF-5E, also known as the F-5, can no longer keep up with the demands of modern service and will soon be retired.
主要都是靠技力来维修，还有少部分还是必须得靠一些老班长的经验传承为辅助，才能完成我们飞行前的检查。
Taiwan regularly scrambles its fighter jets to respond to growing Chinese military activity near the country. But its pilots are increasingly flying modern aircraft like the F-16. One pilot here was nostalgic, looking back on his time in the F-5's cockpit.
My first time fly F-5 is in Taidong Air Base, and it's very excited. I feel very sad. And thanks is accompanying with me for so long, and so that I can always be safe.
Are you going to cry in the ceremony tomorrow?
Maybe, I think.
Despite the upcoming farewell ceremony on Friday, it's business as usual here in Hualien. Ground crews have been operating the F-5 for more than 50 years, and so a lot of the maintenance that you saw happens every day. But what makes this moment special is it's one of the last sessions of maintenance before the F-5 takes to the skies for the last time. Ryan Wu and Jaime Ocon in Hualien for TaiwanPlus.
An advocacy group has protested outside the Mainland Affairs Council, saying the government's policy on Chinese spouses is political bullying.
政府他有明确的证据可以证明这1.2万的陆配有双重户籍吗？明明这件事情就应该是要由政府举证，可是这个时候他非但不举证，他还要求我们的陆配要自证清白。
Taiwan's government asked over 12,000 Chinese spouses living in Taiwan and their children to prove they've renounced their household registration in China by the end of June. Not doing so risks losing their legal status in Taiwan. The Mainland Affairs Council defended the requirement, which has been in place since 2004.
我不知道那个抗议团体要我们道歉什么哈，因为实际上很多陆配朋友他们都已经去办理了啊，而且我们所看到的现在的状况就是，你只要愿意回去办，基本上没有什么办不下来的。
The council says over 6,000 Chinese spouses have complied with the requirement. Taiwan says it will look into a Chinese company's plan to buy a Taiwanese firm amid concerns it could acquire sensitive technology. Dongshan Precision Manufacturing, a printed circuit board maker, plans to acquire Hsinchu-based source Photonics for nearly $7.5 billion. Some are worried China could use the company to bypass U.S. and Taiwanese export controls and gain access to advanced technologies, including advanced 3-nanometer chips. The Economy Ministry says it will not grant investment approval if it finds risks to Taiwan's security or economy.
我们还没有收到这家公司的这个投资计划变更的这个申请，提出这个投资计划变更的申请的话，当然我们绝对会严审。那如果有这个涉及到国家安全或经济发展之余的话，最严重就是要废止公司的这个投资许可。
As the U.S.-China tech rivalry heats up, Taiwan is working to protect its industries while keeping its economy open. Pro-Palestinian activists say Taiwan is helping send military-grade steel to Israel. They're demanding freight giant Evergreen stop a shipment that's already on the way. And they say they're ready to get the government involved if need be. John Van Trieste reports.
The Gaza war is unfolding over 8,000 kilometers away from here in downtown Taipei. But a group of protesters say that Taiwan has its own, possibly deadly role to play in the conflict, and they want to stop to it now.
人权台湾拒当共犯，
These activists represent several civic groups that are concerned about the human rights situation in Gaza. They've gathered to protest outside the offices of shipping giant Evergreen, the operator of a ship bound for Israel with military-grade steel. They're unsure of the exact tonnage, but they say the Evergolden is just days from its destination, and its cargo could soon be turned into weapons, pointed at people in Gaza. It's part of what they say is a broader involvement of Taiwanese companies in Israel's war against Hamas.
在加沙进行攻击的 F-35战机、F-16战机、无人机、军用电脑等，都极大有机会有台湾制造的部件与关键技术。台湾人所生产的零件正在被运用在加沙，作为杀戮巴勒斯坦平民、妇女与儿童的杀人凶器。
Evergreen has told TaiwanPlus it has no role in the sale or final use of the goods it carries, and that it will continue reviews to make sure it meets all legal and social responsibilities. And stopping this shipment could be complicated. The ship's owner may be Taiwanese, but it flies the Panamanian flag, and its owner is based in Japan. Still, the protesters say the shipment violates international law, and so Taiwan has to do something, whether the country is a UN member or not. The ship is fast approaching the eastern Mediterranean, but pro-Palestinian activists say they won't let up pressure on its owner until it changes course. Scott Huang and John Van Trieste in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
In a rare visit, a Philippine delegation has traveled to Taiwan for a maritime forum. The delegation includes 1 former and 2 current senior officials, including a spokesperson for the Philippine Coast Guard. It comes after Manila lifted its decades-old restrictions on official travel to Taiwan in April. The delegation also met with President Lai Ching-te during their visit. Philippine participation is seen as a major milestone in Taiwan-Philippine relations, coming amid rising tensions between China and the Philippines in the South China Sea. And for more on the Philippine officials' visit to Taiwan, our senior reporter David Santos spoke to one of them, Coast Guard spokesperson Jay Tariella, in an exclusive interview for TaiwanPlus. Though billed as the first Philippine delegation to visit Taipei since Manila eased restrictions on its officials visiting Taiwan, Tariella says he's here in his role as an academic. David began by asking why it's important that Manila takes part in the Maritime Forum.
So, Dr. Tariella, talk to us about your visit to Taiwan.
I highlighted that it is important for all those countries who are experiencing bullying and violation of their rights as a country is that we don't have to be silent about it. We need to expose such aggression and tell that to the world. It doesn't mean that we want to provoke anybody or to escalate the tension, but it's important for us to tell the international community that as a peace-loving nation, there is this country, like the People's Republic of China, who violates international law, does not adhere to the law of the sea, and even bully ordinary Filipino fishermen.
What is the objective of this Maritime Forum, and what is the Philippines bringing to the table?
When you talk about Ocean Forum, it's not just about security. There are other issues, whether economic, trade, and investment. You also talk about, most importantly, the protection of the marine environment. So these are 3 pillars of maritime governance that we really need to look into. The first one is, of course, security. The second one, security and adherence to the international law. The second one is the protection of the marine environment. And the third one is the blue economy. These are the things that we can ignite the conversation and learn from each other.
Both the Philippines and Taiwan continue to face China's aggressive actions. What lessons are we learning from each other based on the engagements you've had in this forum?
We should stop calling it as gray zone already. In the Philippines, we have already stopped using gray zone activities, but we are there to call it out outright violation of international law. It is illegal, coercive, aggressive, and deceptive action on the part of the People's Republic of China. And then for us to learn from the Taiwanese government as well is how do they deal with the misinformation and fake news. I think the Taiwanese people had been also subjected to information operation. How does the Taiwanese government deal with all of those misinformation that are also being spread out in different social media platforms?
You had the chance to meet the president of Taiwan. Did you get to speak to him, and what was the conversation like?
Well, I had a chance to ask a question to the president. He was actually kind enough to respond to a lot of questions from different delegates coming from different countries. But for me, I asked him that since we are part of the first island chain, and the Philippines is actually very close to Taiwan, in his administration as the president of Taiwan, how he can be able to further improve our cooperation in different dimensions of engagement. And he highlighted that under his administration, he really supports strengthening our cooperation in different dimensions. But he said the difficulty sometimes is on the receiving, those who are on the receiving end of the cooperation proposals that they have.
That was Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson Jay Tariella. U.S. President Donald Trump has imposed a 20% tariff on Vietnam's exports to the U.S., down from his earlier threat of 46% in April. Trump announced the new rate in a social media post, adding that third country shipments routed through Vietnam would face a 40% levy. This would discourage the practice known as origin washing. Vietnam has also agreed to import U.S. products at a 0% tariff rate, with the North reportedly committing to providing preferential market access for U.S. goods, including large engine cars. Taiwanese manufacturing businesses have a large presence in Vietnam. Some say they will now need to focus on how to navigate the impact of the new rules.
不希望你用在这边组装出去的就不行了，相信企业界都有智慧能力去做这个应变。
Economists say these new tariffs could eventually drive Taiwanese businesses out of Vietnam. Taiwan's small and medium-sized enterprises cannot catch a break. Bracing for potential steep U.S. tariffs, they are now also feeling the impact of the new Taiwan dollar's sharpest rise in years. Tiffany Wong takes a look at one of the industries feeling the hit.
In Taiwan's screw manufacturing capital, every order counts. The country is one of the biggest exporters of fasteners in the world. But in 2025, these businesses have been hit with some major concerns. First, tariffs of 32% for exports to the U.S., paused at least until July 9th and under negotiation. And now the sudden rise of the new Taiwan dollar against the greenback, which manufacturers say has reduced profits to nearly zero.
可能已经接单的部分，它就一定是 获利会损失，会减少，甚至亏钱的状态。然后第二个就是我们被迫后面新接的订单一定是必须去涨价。
As the Taiwanese dollar strengthens, it hurts the industry's already low profit margins with key customers, including the U.S. And the small enterprises that make up the screw supply chain are feeling the hit.
都没单了，汇利汇损，大家都亏大了。 抽完线卖给螺丝业去打螺丝，他们都外销，这全部都是外销的一环了。
The Economic Affairs Ministry has asked state-owned banks to help small and medium-sized enterprises deal with exchange rate fluctuations. Economists call this strategy of balancing the risk from those dips and spikes hedging.
企业界可能他们要做汇率的避险合约，然后成本转嫁、市场多元化部署、体质稳健，避免说资金流断裂的话会停损或缩减规模。
As the industry copes with losses from the strengthening NT dollar, it's hoping that the government can help lessen the impact sooner rather than later, especially as it braces for a possible resumption of U.S. tariffs next week. Joseph Wu and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Before we go, we leave you with images from Aix-en-Provence, a one-of-a-kind dinosaur nursery in the south of France. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
I'm Tiffany Wong in Georgetown, Penang, and you're watching Taiwan Plus.